Hello and welcome. My name is Kurt Vest. I'm here at Owls. We are together at the Vice tonight. We're putting together tonight one of the patterns from the life cycle of Mayfly. We're going to be putting together a few of these patterns so that hopefully you can pick up some tips and techniques for your own tying at home. Hope you enjoy it. Before we get started tonight, just to explain a little bit about the life cycle of the Mayfly. Mayfly has, four distinct life stages: the nymph, the emerger or the cripple, the adult or the dun, and the spent adult or the spinner. So we're going to be tying patterns that represent each of these stages in the life cycle. In this video, we're going to be tying the Mayfly adult or dun. This is the PMD Thorax Dun. This is a pattern that imitates the adult stage of really any Mayfly. It was Vince Marinero who kind of developed this fly, and it's a fly that really imitates that adult dun well. It still is designed to ride down low in the surface film and gives a great profile. For hook, we're using this is a Hanak competition. This is in a size 12. We'll size up a little bit. Normally tie this in a size 14, but we'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see this a little bit easier. So we're starting with thread. This is a Veevus 8/0 and kind of a pale yellow since we're tying a PMD. I'm just going to get thread started here. And this is a barbless hook, so we're going to take this back to about where the barb would be. We're imagining there's a barb. We'd put it right there. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to tie in tails. There's several ways you can do this. This fly has a split tail, kind of a V split or a forked tail, and that helps both in the silhouette and profile of this fly, because the Mayfly Natural has split tail, but it helps from the design of the fly as kind of outriggers. It helps the fly to balance on the water, and so it's kind of an ingenious way of tying this. So you've got the outriggers out. For the tail, we're using just a Coq de Leon feather. This is Nature's Spirit dry fly tailing pack in light dun. Any Coq de Leon. You can use microfibbets as well. I like these natural fibers. I think they are a little more forgiving than what the microfibbets are, but I've taken off about a dozen or so, maybe 10 of those fibers, and I'm measuring these on the shank of the hook, and I want them to be about the length of the body. And I'm going to tie those in at that point, transfer my measurement to my left hand, and do a little pin trap and tie those in just to the top of the hook shank. Now to splay or fork these tails, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another piece of thread. This is the tag end of that thread that I started, and I'm just going to wrap it around the bottom of the hook shank, and I'm going to bring it back like this, and I'm going to spin this up so it basically becomes one rope of thread, and I'm going to bring this up in between, maybe with my finger kind of lift up these fibers and then bring this up so I kind of roughly split those tails in half. And I just bring that thread over the top and I'm going to tie it down. And that takes one clump of feathers or fibers and brings it into that nice forked V that we're talking about. So that V-shaped tail, and we're going to bring that thread back down to the base of that tie-in point, and I'm just kind of preening these tails back as I go. So hopefully keep those kind of even and matched, just like that. Okay, so next we're gonna tie in our wing. For the wing, we're using, this is just a light dun turkey flat, and these turkey flats are super durable. I love this feather for this pattern. You can see why they call them flats. It's this feather that's just like flat across the top. And so we're going to use a section of this for our wing. Before I do that though, let's tie in our biot. This is for our body. We'll get that tied in so we don't have to come back down to that. So for the body, we're going to tie in just a turkey biot. This is a PMD colored turkey biot. We're going to tie in a section or a piece of this. This is one biot, and I'm tying this in with that thin edge facing down. So I want this to be a smooth body. Smooth abdomen here. And we're going to build just a little bit of taper up towards where this wing is going to tie in. And I've stopped this here. This is where I want my wing to tie in. This wing is that turkey flat. And I'm going to just nip out the tip of that feather, so that, right at the stem, so that I've got this kind of open V, and this is where my wing's going to come from. I'm going to take a section that's about the hook gap in width, maybe a little bit wider than the hook gap, and that's going to be my PMD wing. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this little section of feather, I'm going to fold it in half, and those tips should line up nicely lined up. And then with a little pinch wrap, I'm gonna transfer this. We're gonna tie this in. So first we're gonna measure this against the body. I want that wing to be about the length of the body. So I'm measuring that, and that's where my tie-in point's gonna be. And I'm gonna transfer to my left hand, and we're gonna do just kind of a simple little pinch and draw down. Pinch and draw down. And I do 2 or 3 tight wraps on that. A couple more just for security. And then I will check this, and I'll look at that wing, and that wing's maybe a little bit long, so I'm going to shorten that just a little bit. That looks a little bit better to me. Get that wing to be about hook length, hook shank length. And I'm going to tie that in just a few more tight wraps. So we're going to nip out these butt ends here. Try to nip them out and be just as clean as we can with that single cut. And we'll kind of knock down over the tips or the butt ends here so that we have a little more security. And I'm going to just carefully stand these up. I'm going to put a few solid thread wraps right behind them, just to kind of prop these up a little bit. Propping these up, and that's going to be our Mayfly wing. Mayfly has the telltale sailboat wing, and this feather kind of represents that taper as well. So we're going to now wrap our Biot body, and I'm going to put just a little dab of super glue just kind of on the bottom of this where we've got the wing up top. I don't want that super glue to get into my wing. So we're going to take our Hackle plier, and we'll just start wrapping and get that Biot to orient properly so that it lays down the way we want, so that that thin edge is on the back side. That should produce a nicely segmented and smooth body. We'll kind of keep that wing out of the way as we wrap up through. That little bead of super glue on the bottom there helps to kind of secure that Biot and add an extra layer of durability. I always like to build in durability in my flies so that they're as strong as can be when we're fishing them. So I've got that Biot pulled up and drawn up to where that wing was, and we'll just tie that off. And cut off that butt end. Okay, next we have a Hackle feather, and this is just a rooster neck feather, and it's dyed light dun. And we're gonna come here to the feather where it's starting to lose its web and trim it out so we've got nice stiff barbs, and this is gonna be what floats the fly. We're gonna trim out about 6 or 7 fibers off the end. So we've got these little tiny stubby ends on them. We're going to tie that in by the stubby ends. And that adds a little bit of grip to that feather so that slick hackle feather won't slide out. And then what we're going to do next is dub this abdomen. I'm using for dubbing, this is Nature's Spirit fine natural dubbing, and this is in the color Infrequence, and this is that same, or you can do PMD. This is that same PMD coloration, kind of a pale yellowy olive. We're going to dub this on really, really thin. When you're dubbing, you want to keep it just as thin as you can. Just touch dub a little bit at a time. If you need to add more, you can. But I'm going to dub out about a 2-inch long noodle, and we're just going to sort of start building this up carefully. So I build up a little bit in front of the wing, and then we're going to build up a little bit behind the wing. And what we're doing is kind of creating this beefy thorax where the hackle is going to wrap through just a little bit thicker and tapered up. And then if you've got any extra kind of loose fibers, you can kind of trim those out. Clean that up. Okay, last step. We're going to wrap this hackle. When I wrap this, again, you're going to mind the wing. You want to be able to wrap this so that you get 2 or 3 wraps behind the wing and 2 or 3 wraps in front of the wing. This is a pretty good hackle, so we're probably only going to do, I don't know, maybe 2 wraps behind. Be careful not to trap any of those wings fibers, and then we're going to come up through in front of the wing and do maybe 2, maybe we'll get a 3rd wrap in here. There we go. And then we're just going to wrap off that hackle. Keeping those little hackle fibers out, trying not to trap any of those. Tie that down, and I like to do a little securing wrap. I fold that back and I kind of wrap that down right there in that head, and then we can just come in with a scissor point and just nip out that hackle tip. Okay, last step here with the tying is just to tie off a nice secure head. You're going to whip finish. Three or 4 turn whip finish. And then we're going to take out that thread. We'll hit it with a dab of head cement to just kind of secure those thread wraps. And then the last trick when you're tying this thorax is we're going to trim the hackle along the bottom, and that helps this fly to ride in the kind of the surface film. So I like to take one cut right below, pretty close to the body. I'm just trying to get kind of those hackle fibers that are right on the bottom, and then I take and I come in just like this, kind of even with where the hook point is, and I take those off. So that just kind of takes off the bottom edge. So when this fly hits the water, it rides down more flat in the water. And that is the PMD Thorax Dun. Well, we hope you enjoyed those videos. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for more information about tying your own flies, getting started with fly tying or fly fishing, check out owls.com or come into any of Owl's sporting goods stores. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.